Hi, I'm Beth from Sew Country, and today I'm going to be sewing up the Ample Wallet. This wallet is a pattern by Handcrafted by PJ, and I will leave the link for the pattern in the description. This is one of my favorite wallets to sew up because it is so quick and easy, and I always sell every one I have at my craft shows and come home with orders for more. So I hope you love this pattern as much as I do. I usually can get one cut and sewn within an hour or two. That's how quick it is. Because it's a raw edge pattern, meaning you need to use vinyl or cork, there's no interfacing, and it just, since you're not going to be turning it at the end, it just comes together really quick. Before we get started, I do want to let you know that I did get permission to film this tutorial from the designer of this pattern, but she did want me to make clear that I'm not affiliated with her business. I'm just doing this on my own as my interpretation of her pattern. So while I am going to be sewing up this pattern, I may do something differently or I may make a mistake. Always follow the pattern as preferences because it has been tested by many people and is accurate. I sometimes might do my own thing or I might make a mistake. Okay, so now let's look at this pattern. This wallet has a front flap and a back and the front. This is all one main piece. So you can see if you're using a directional print, you would have problems with it being upside down. So keep that in mind also. I usually do not use a directional vinyl or cork on this wallet. When I open it up, I have a slip pocket at the top. And then this is the first part where I deviate. I am someone who uses cash and coupons more than I use credit cards. So I leave all of my slots completely open. I do not sew up the middle. When I'm making these for craft shows, I do usually sew up at least one or both for customers because most people this day do use multiple credit cards and things of that nature. So when it's time to sew these up, I will let you know. So if you want to sew yours up, you can, or you can leave them open for cash and coupons like me. But then we have the zipper pocket down here below and more of the card slots. You will need the pattern because although I'm going to show you how to sew this up, I will not give you any of the pattern pieces or measurements, and you will need those to cut it out to make sure everything fits properly. But this is what it looks like, and this is what we're going to be doing whenever we cut it out. So you can see this is the one piece you'll need at the bottom. This is E. Then we have 5 D pieces. Let me get those out. 5 D pieces. I think this is a F. And you can tell the difference between these two because the one at the bottom is going to be rounded and the one on the top is going to have a sharp corner there. I do like to alternate the two materials. I usually use 2 different materials in all of my wallets, and I always alternate so that you can see each color easily. Okay, we have a B and a C. The C is going to be for your zipper, and this is going to be the only piece that we are not going to top stitch before we put this wallet together. All these other pieces we're going to top stitch, but this one we're not. So I'm going to lay this one aside with the zipper. This is our main panel. This is the first place where I deviate, well, I guess the second since the credit card slots, but I do deviate from the pattern in this. The pattern calls for you to only have one of these. I like to use 2. So like in my wallet, you can see, you do not see the back side of the vinyl here. In the original pattern it does call for that, but it was just a personal preference for me to double that piece A and sew them together to have it look a little more professional in my opinion. So I do that, but this does add more bulk to the wallet. So if your machine can't handle that, or if you just don't like it, that would be something you would have to consider. My machine can handle it. I don't have any problems with that. The other thing we have cut out is zipper tabs, and I don't see them here. I must have set them off to the side. So I will get those and show you those. And then you'll also need a magnetic snap. I'm just going to use the cheap, simple prong type, so mine's nothing fancy. You could use the kinds that rivet in place if you wanted to, but you will need a magnetic snap to close this wallet. The first step in this wallet is going to be top stitching. While top stitching is not necessary, you can skip it. It does give the wallet a more professional look. So we're going to top stitch all the pieces separately. The only piece we're not going to top stitch is of course around the mane, and then also this part right here where our zipper pocket goes. And I'm going to go ahead and grab that piece. That is your C piece, and I'm going to put it aside with the zipper, and so I know it's not going to get top stitched. I'm also going to put aside my two A pieces, and I'll get this wallet out of the way. And so on each of these other pieces here, I'm just going to top stitch. Since I'm working with either a vinyl or a cork, I'm going to lengthen my top stitching. I'm going to go to about a 3.5, and I'm going to go slow on this. I'm going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge on the top of each pattern piece. Now if you get confused on what is the top of your pattern pieces, it is the way the words are written. So if the words of the pattern piece are written to where you can read them this way, that would help you to know the orientation of the top. Also, whenever I'm doing this, if my vinyl, I'm going to make sure it's not too stretchy or it's not sticking. This vinyl, I don't have problems with it with my machine, but if you do have problems, you can switch to a Teflon foot. You can put Scotch tape on the bottom of your foot, and also you could use a product called Sewer's Aid, which is just really basically a sewing machine oil that you put directly on your vinyl that helps the vinyl feed through your machine better. So those are some ways to get perfect top stitching when you're working with a vinyl or a cork. And I'm going to go ahead and just chain stitch all of these 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge at the top. Top only. We are not top stitching on the bottom or the sides, only that top edge. Now that we have all the pieces top stitched that we need to get top stitched, we're going to work on this upper portion right here. So we're going to construct the top and the bottom separately. So let's get started with this one at the top. So pull out your B piece, 3 D pieces, and 1 F piece. The way I like to do mine is I will put the one with the top stitched edge at the top, and then I alternate my D pieces. So it will look like this, and then the bottom piece, so it'll be a nice contrast. When we are going to stitch this, we are going to take our first D piece and we are going to place it about 1/8 of an inch away from the top stitching you just did. You can clip it, you can use some little double-sided tape or whatever you want to do. But after you have it placed, you are going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from that bottom raw edge to secure your D piece to your B piece. That is all you do. You do not sew your sides or anything else. Have your top edge 1/8 of an inch away from that top stitching you just did. Take it over to your machine and sew 1/8 of an inch away from that bottom edge. I do back stitch here. You want to make sure this is a secure stitch, and this is not a stitch you will see once your wallet is done. I'm going to do that same thing again with my next D piece. This time I'm going to use the alternating color. So when I'm making these, I want to look and make sure I have enough of a gap between each piece so I can see the print, and also so I can fit the card in there. So I'm looking at that, I think, oh, I need to come down just a little bit more to give myself a little bit more clearance there. See how much better that one looks? So now I'm just going to sew again along the bottom, locking in the stitches 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge. Add my second, or the last D piece. And on the sides, you want your pieces to be flush. Where this is a raw edge wallet, you will have a little bit of overhang that you might have to trim, but there's no turning, so you do need to be precise when lining up your sides to try to get them all even to meet. So there's the last D piece. I'm going to go ahead and sew it on the bottom. Now I want to attach my last piece. What we really want to see happen is we want to have a little bit of overhang with this one at the bottom. That would just help to reduce bulk. If you don't get that overhang, that's fine. Most of the time I don't get mine perfectly, so it's okay. But if you do have a little overhang, that's really what the pattern suggests, that when you turn around the back, your F piece will be hanging down low. But it won't affect the way the pattern comes together. It will just be a little more bulk whenever you put it together, but my machine can handle it. If your machine is one that could not handle that, definitely make sure that you practice and line these up perfectly so that that one does hang down lower. If you want to have dividers for these to be card slots, this is the time when you'll go ahead and sew down the middle. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here at this one, and I'll back stitch, and I'll go all the way down and then back stitch. If I was using this for cash or coupons, I would stop right here and I would just leave it alone at this point. So this is complete. If you want to, you could add a row of double-sided tape or some glue is what the pattern suggests to glue that down if you feel uncomfortable sewing, since you will be sewing that without it being attached. Do not baste or top stitch that, because those stitches will show in the end and make the wallet look a lot less professional. So either leave it unsewn like I'm going to do, or add a little bit of glue or double-sided tape to secure it for yourself. This is the top portion that will go up here. It is complete. I'm going to set it aside and then we'll start working on the bottom portion. Now we're going to work on the bottom portion of the wallet that includes the zipper. It is constructed basically in the same way with these pockets down here, but this part's a little bit different. So let's get started. Let's pull out our remaining pieces, all except our main panel. So our PC, which we have not top stitched, our zipper with the pull attached. The pattern tells you the measurements of the zipper. I'm going to do mine a little bit differently, which I'll explain, but you should have a zipper. I'm using a number 5. 3 would be probably, I think, better for what the pattern calls for, but I just only have number 5 zippers. And then you should have 2 remaining D pieces and your bottom E piece. All of these should be top stitched already. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look here. The way I like to do mine is a little bit different, but you can do yours exactly like the pattern says too. There is no problem. What I do is I cut my zipper so that I get about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8, whatever, of clearance on each side of my zipper tape. So you can see the gap there. Then what I do is I cut my zipper tabs bigger. I don't even measure them. I just rough cut some rectangles. And what I like to do is I like to overlap my zipper tab onto my tape by 1/4 of an inch. That means that when I flip it over, I'll see about 1/4 of an inch of zipper tape right there in the middle of the tab. And I'm just going to top stitch from my right side, of course, this zipper tape on the tab. So let's do that now just so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to put it there. And the reason why I do mine this way is I just want to decrease my bulk a little bit more, especially since I'm choosing to use a number 5 zipper. The teeth are a little bit bigger on this one than on a number 3. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and trim down the sides to make it flush. I'm not trimming down this part, just the sides. Most of this will get trimmed away, but we won't know exactly how much until we have it put together. That's what it looks like from this side. I'm going to repeat that with my other one. Just going to put it on there about 1/4 of an inch away, maybe 3/8, but it doesn't matter too much specifically. Again, trim my sides. And now I'm going to put this on my C piece. The way I'm going to do that, your rounded curved edge are going to be at the bottom. I want my zipper to be close to the left, and so I'm just going to put that on there. What I'm trying to create is so that whenever I sew this all together at the end, I'm only catching those tabs. My teeth will not be in my seam allowance. Is I'm going to put this piece on top of my zipper tape, and I want to see below my teeth about 1/4 of an inch of zipper tape between my piece C and my teeth. 1/4 of an inch of tape. So let's go ahead and clip that so you can kind of see it a little bit clearer. From the front, you can see that about 1/4 of an inch of my zipper tape is showing beneath the teeth. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge of this vinyl, this PC, all along the top. I will back stitch or either pull your threads to the back and knot them off, and that's going to attach the zipper to your piece C. Now what I want to do is continue on the way I did the top portion, and I'm going to pull out one of my D pieces. I'm going to lay it about 1/8 of an inch away from that previous top stitching. I'll put a little clip in here so I can hold it up and you can see it better. So I'm just going to sew along the bottom, locking in the stitches just like I did with my previous ones. We don't sew the sides or the top. Okay, now that's sewed on. Now I'm going to sew my second D piece on. Again, I'm just going to clip it about 1/8 of an inch away. As you get better at these, you won't even clip. You will just take it straight over to your machine one after the other. I do like to make sure I do see a good portion of the previous D piece showing just for that contrast. Again, I'm going to sew right along the bottom there, 1/8 of an inch away, locking in the stitches. My final piece, this is E. We're going to do this, add this around the bottom, and just like my previous one, it is designed to hang a little bit lower. So if yours does, great. That is what the pattern calls for. I, though, like I said, struggle with getting it. This one's barely hanging over. It won't bother me because it won't affect my bulk, but the reason why they want that to overhang just a little on the bottom is so you can catch everything without adding extra bulk. On mine, I typically don't sew the card slots, but I am going to for this video. If you don't want to, just skip it and be done here. But for this video, I'm going to show you that I'm going to start sewing right here, lock in that stitch, and just go down here. This part is complete. I'm just going to trim my tabs. Like I said, I made them longer. I didn't even measure. I just rough cut those, so I'm going to trim them down to size now. And this bottom portion is done, and now it's time to add everything together. So at this point in the pattern, you should have your bottom completed, your top completed, and if you're like me, you'll have 2 A pieces. Now, I'm not going to give you the measurements, but I do have 2 lines drawn on my main panel. If you are using only one main panel, you'll be doing all of these steps on the back side. Since I'm using 2, I'm going to be doing mine on this front side. You will use the pattern to get the measurements as to where to draw these lines, but what we'll do is we'll start with our bottom piece, and we are going to take it, we're going to flip it up and upside down and lay the top of our zipper tape directly on that line given in the pattern. I am just going to use 2 clips so I can hold this up to show you how it'll look. On this bottom, you can draw that line with whatever because you won't see it, but on the top, you do need to be a little bit more careful because that line can show through when you draw it. So this is what it's going to look like. My zipper tape, the unsewn edge of the zipper tape is sitting directly on that line. I'm going to sew across that zipper tape. Now what you want to try to do is, you see these stitches right here and how much zipper tape is showing. I want to try to mimic that at the bottom so that it looks even. So I'm going to try to sew at about 1/8 of an inch away, and it's going to be pretty much what you're going to try to do is sew right in the middle of your zipper tape. You can see these previous stitches are right in the middle of your zipper tape. You're going to try to do that same thing at the bottom. I'm going to lock in my stitches and I'm going to sew straight across and then lock in my stitches on the other side. After you've sewn that, what you're going to do is you're just going to pull it down and line up the bottom edges. It should line up perfectly. You may have to pull just a little, but you can just clip that in place, pulling it all down, and it should just clip perfectly. And there is your bottom. You can see it looks beautiful. I just love it. Okay, now we're going to do the top. The top's a little bit easier. You just simply, that line that you got from your pattern, you're just going to simply line that top edge up on that line. So it's going to sit right on that line. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just sew across the bottom, along that bottom. I'm not sewing my sides, so my sides are still unattached. So for this bottom, you're just going to do 1/8 of an inch along the raw edge of the bottom. You can lock in your stitches there. So now at this point we have the inside almost finished and we have our outside. So these are the two pieces left with. Before we put them together, let's go ahead and install our magnetic snap. So the pattern gives the measurements as to how far down the magnetic snap goes. Honestly, at this point what I do is I just measure because I want to make sure that I know I have enough room for my foot to clear with top stitching. So depending on what type of foot you use, you want to make sure of that. But you definitely want it centered, and I go ahead and install my top magnetic snap first, and I'm going to add the female portion to the top. And then what I do is I do not measure for my bottom. With this pattern where I made the change with adding the extra piece A here, you do want to make sure that you don't have too much bulk. The magnetic snap measurement she gives in the pattern may be a little different depending on the materials you use and if you use my method of doing two pieces. So now that I have the magnetic snap added to the top, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clip this around real quick, and I'm going to see where I want to place the bottom. I want my wallet to be a little bit loose because, like I said, I do use mine for cash and coupons. I know I'm going to be putting a lot of stuff in them, and I'm assuming my customers will too, so I never make mine too tight. So what I do, I just put a few clips around there, and then I just fold up my wallet to see where I want that snap to go. So whenever I close it, I don't want to pull it all the way down real hard to where it's barely making it. I want it to have a little bit of room there. So I'm thinking that is what I want. I am just going to push down. I want to have my ink pen handy. And whenever I push down, I'm going to make a small indentation, and I'm just going to put a little dot with my ink pen on your exterior, on your outside, because I'm going to put the snap right there so it's not going to show. So now that I got that, I'm going to open it back up, take off the clips that were clipping the two together at the bottom, and then I can just go ahead and install that magnetic snap on my exterior piece. If you're using just one piece, of course it'll be on the same piece as your other one. It would just be on the opposite side. When you install the prong snap, if you're uncomfortable, you can add a piece of tape over your prongs or a piece of interfacing. Make sure that your your snap is on the outside of the wallet so that it can snap. Now, the last step is just to clip all around and sew everything together. So I'm going to take my time and line up all my sides and my edges neatly, and then we will come back and I'll explain how I'm going to sew it together. So now we're on to the last part of the pattern. All we have to do now is we have to sew around the perimeter, and you will do this step whether you're using 1 or 2 panels, and that will just attach everything. It's also going to be your top stitching, so we want to be careful and take our time during this process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing down here at the bottom. I'm going to do between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch of a seam allowance just to catch everything in here and to be able to trim all the uneven pieces around. So I will go slowly because if you remember, none of these side pieces are attached. So we're going to have to be careful to make sure that when we're stitching over these that our needle and our foot is not shifting things. So take your time on this process, especially when you're coming back down, because your foot is going to want to have the tendency to try to pull down. So if you see it starting to pull, just stop with your needle in the down position, lift up your foot and kind of use your stiletto to smooth everything out and keep it still, and then get back to stitching. But don't rush this last step. It is very important. After we do all this, we're just going to trim and clean up any overhang, and then our wallet is complete. We have the wallet stitched up on both sides. Now let's just take our time and use a pair of very sharp scissors and go around all the edges and trim up everything. If you want to, you can edge coat this wallet. I personally don't and have no problems with it and people complaining about it. But if you want to be extra, you could definitely do that, edge coat on it. What I like to do is I like to trim on the inside first, and then I flip it over and then I trim from the exterior just to make sure that I get everything the way I want it to look for the final product. Okay, so now I have my wallet trimmed. It is beautiful. I love it. Once again, this wallet has turned out perfect. What I will do now is I will set this under a heavy book or something else heavy to kind of teach the vinyl how I want it to lay. The vinyl is not used to laying crease like this. You could also put some of your little clips right here. These clips will not leave bad indentions. The metal ones, like the plastic ones, will if you want, if you don't have anything too heavy to lay it under. But there is your wallet. If you want, there's been times that I've added either the little rivet snaps to use this as a wristlet, or even 2 D-rings to make this as a crossbody. Typically I don't though. Typically I just leave it like this, and this is the way I use mine. So thank you so much for joining me in sewing up this wallet. If you have any questions or any concerns about anything, please leave the comment down below, ask me the question, and I will get back to you. I do answer all the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for taking the time to watch it, and I hope you join me for my next tutorial.